listener, to another episode of Justice League Revisited, the show that gets into the nitty-gritty, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the topics and discussions you won't hear anywhere else about everyone's favorite superhero series, Justice League, the animated series, and soon coming, Justice League Unlimited, all in good time. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, the voice of Wonder Woman, except no substitutes, Susan Eisenberg. How are you?
There are substitutes? Hi, I'm
very
well. How are
ones,
you?
Very poor ones.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, and it's good to be back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I look forward to these interviews. I mean, I could even do more of them. I love them so much.
It is great fun. I mean, just the fact that we've gotten so much positive feedback from the people who are listening to these now. And I love the fact, like, we had Phil on and he listened to our first episode with Dan Reba and was like, oh, I heard you guys say this. And, you know, that we're getting that now from people who have listened to our own episodes. They're revisiting Justice League Revisited.
As they should. I have a feeling our guest today will be one of those people who will have listened to some of our episodes, because as he's a super fan and he is he's a talker. So I bet he likes to listen as well. So we'll find out, but I have a feeling he's listened to one or two of our episodes, if not all of them.
Let's
you want to tell people who we have on today?
Yeah, we're going to have James Strecker from the Watchtower database. This is our first Superfan episode, and with the amount of content that they put out over there at Watchtower database, it was a no-brainer. Just like this is someone we definitely need to have on. We'll see. Maybe there'll be a little rivalry. Hopefully he won't try to hone in on the co-host chair and boot me to the side. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I actually have done a lot of stuff with them. I mean, I've been on their podcasts and I've done some, like some of their other projects. And so I have such high regard for these guys and James specifically. And, when I asked him to be on, I think he was taken aback. He was like, yes, I'll do it. But I mean, he loves the show and they have always supported the show, and they do these very deep dives into the show. And he is that wonderful fan that keeps us out there in people's hearts and minds. So why not support him?
Yeah.
And have him on the show. So I'm looking forward to this chat. He's going to give you a run for your money, Bubba.
No kid, because the content they put out, I mean, he's very knowledgeable. I got to say that. He's very knowledgeable about the topics that we're going to talk about, and he did rewatch the episode we're going to cover. So I'm sure he'll bring some great insights, being that fan that, like me, that I'm such a fan, and I love talking about this, and I have no doubt he's going to bring that same kind of energy just based on the content they put out in the shows that they do. You can tell his love for this series, and this, especially this series, Justice League, is so genuine, and I'm excited to talk to him.
So when I mentioned to James, like, would you want to be on the show? He said yes, and I'd love to do Paradise Lost. And then he continued to tell me every reason why he wanted to do it. Like, he pitched me, this is the show I want to do, and this is I want to be a guest on this one, and this is why. So we're doing Paradise Lost today. It's a Wonder Woman centric episode, which is, kind of fun. She gets to tell her little, her big story. And so I'm looking forward to this episode with you guys, with my two geek guys.
This will be very exciting. Paradise Lost was a two-parter, as most of them were. Part 1 was released on January 21st, 2002, with Part 2 following a week later, January 28th, 2002. This was the 5th story overall, and episodes 10 and 11 of the series as it went through, directed by Dan Reba. Writer was Joseph Kerr on this, and we had some great guest stars. Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself was Felix Faust. John Rhys Davies was Hades. It rhymes. John Rhys Davies. He was Hades. Susan Sullivan, who I knew from as Richard Castle's mom on Castle, played with Nathan Fillion. Voiced Vigilante later on. We'll get to that. Played the voice of Wonder Woman's mom, Hippolyta. And we even had a lovely little voice cameo by Andrea Romano herself as an Amazon officer.
That's right. I heard that.
And it's Wonder Woman's story. We're covering Paradise Lost. I'm interested. We'll talk with Dan Reba next time about the title, borrowed from the John Milton poem, obviously written in the 1600s. But we've got a very excited guest ready to talk. So let's bring in our guest. We have James Strecker from Watchtower Database. If there was someone to talk about Justice League with, my goodness, I can't imagine someone else besides James who we'd have on the show. James, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me here. This is a very bizarre situation where I'm on the other end of this, but I'm also very excited because obviously I'm talking Justice League with a member of the Justice League and also you. So that's great.
I'm like Gleek, the Wonder Twins monkey. That's why I kind of envision myself as my role. So
I'll be Robin or something. I don't know. Yeah.
No, but this is cool because you reached out when we were talking about, you and I are friends. We should mention that up, at the beginning.
It's official. She said
it's official. And we've worked together on a bunch of your projects, and I've been a guest on your show, and I know the guys and I'm big fans of yours. So when we said that we were going to have a few fans on, you were like, hello, I'd like to sign up.
I think I'm the super fan guinea pig here for the show, if I'm correct.
So
yeah.
So don't screw it up, James.
You're the litmus test. Your performance here will determine how this happens going forward. So.
We'll never do it again. Yeah.
So obviously we're talking about Paradise Lost, which we mentioned all the good stuff in the preamble, the open that we do. But this, as we're going back and revisiting this, first of all, this is Susan's episode all the way through. So I'm excited to hear her thoughts. This will be kind of like James and I'll rephrase how I was going to say that. James and I going back and forth asking Susan questions. I almost said tag team, and that's not what I wanted to say at all.
But you said something about a Susan sandwich before we started, and I also wasn't really on board with that.
That's it. No more super fans. See how this happened? But this, I loved the Greek mythology because that was one of my things. I fell in love with Greek mythology in junior high, and purposely took classes when you could select classes once you got into the higher levels of high school on Greek mythology. James, your level of Greek versus Roman mythology, again, this is going to determine your future.
That was one of my 6 reasons I wanted to talk particularly about this episode was that, I had a bunch of different there were these comics when I was a kid called Myth Men that were they were kind of superheroic versions, like a little amplified versions of Greek mythology. There was I had a Hercules, Perseus, and Andromeda, I want to say, and they were all, so that was kind of my gateway, was like, okay, I already like superheroes, and then this stuff. And then, of course, they're combined in this episode. So there's all sorts of stuff going on in this episode that I was very like, oh, this is kind of the first time I'm like, I know what that is. I know what that is. Instead of just being introduced to all the Green Lantern stuff a couple episodes ago. I'm like, this is cool, but I don't know who any of these people are. And there's it's Hades. I know who Hades is. I'm 10 years old. I get it.
And Susan, I know you said before that you didn't previously, before this gig, know about superheroes, know about comic books, know about Wonder Woman, but Greek mythology is one of those things people sometimes have a strong interest in, or at least get their toe dipped in the water in school in some part. What familiarity did you have with Greek mythology before getting this role?
I didn't have so much knowledge, but I had a love for it. It's not like puff puff, I know so much about this, but I absolutely love the mythology. That's my favorite aspect of Wonder Woman, and I loved, when the live action movie dealt with Themyscira, dealt with Paradise Island, dealt with the sisters, the mother, the aunt. I love all of those interactions. And so that was exciting to me to watch her, be able to play that, because that's one of my favorite pieces to play. And I think every Wonder Woman story should have some of it in there. I just think it's important, and it was definitely like we did the Green Lantern, and he had, we've talked to Dan, we talked to Stan, we talked to Rich about everyone having their episode, everyone getting his or her episodes. And this was definitely, Wonder Woman's, and woof. But to answer your mythology question, loved it, didn't know it, loved it in school. Like you guys, loved it when I was exposed to it in school. tried to study it a little bit, but mostly it's just a passion. You know, it was just like, wow, I can't get enough of this stuff. And I loved, you know, the mother-daughter stuff. That was just, you know, a brilliant thing to be able to play.
Yeah, and Susan Sullivan being your mom, I mean, that doesn't hurt either.
You know, I can't say enough good things about her. I was a huge fan because, as we know, I'm a soap opera fan. So she did Falcon Crest, and you know, she just brought so much gravitas to that role.
It's from you that I learned these people were on soap operas, because they go, oh, and I know Ken Schreiner from this soap opera. I don't know. I know him from Justice League.
Yeah, no, that's so funny because obviously he's very well known from General Hospital. But Susan was actually like also on daytime soaps. I think she was on Another World. And then, of course, Falcon Crest. But she's just one of those actresses that you respect, you know? And I remember being in the room with her and just feeling like it would just felt so right playing her daughter. And she was very new to animation. So she was, you know, one of those guest stars that comes in and is like, okay, how does this work? And, you know, after a while, she was like, I got the hang of this, you know? But she was just so special to work with. She's just, you know, she's an extraordinary actor.
And you had some great people, too. Obviously, Robert Englund was probably the first actor who I ever realized as a small kid what acting was, because I was terrified of the Nightmare Before Elm Street movies. And then I'm watching this miniseries called V that comes on about this race of aliens that comes. And my older brother, he goes, you know who that is, don't you? I said, no, that's Freddy Krueger. I was like, get out of town. The meek, timid little alien is the guy who slashes people up in their dreams. So that first introduced me to the concept of acting, was Robert Englund. But then we also had John Rhys Davies as Hades, which that voice.
Yes. You know, and I've met John at so many Comic-Cons, and he's just bigger than life, and you're in the green room with him, and, you know, there's always like a little buzz when he walks in or walks out. You couldn't be lovelier. But next time I see him, I'm going to mention this episode because I'm sure it's in his top 10 list of favorite jobs he's ever had.
I would have to think. There's Indiana Jones, Sliders, and then Justice League. Those are his top three, probably. Anything he's done.
He's so good. He's
Lord of the
good.
Rings, come on.
Oh, please. And yeah, so, I mean, they were tremendous, the two of them. I mean, they were tremendous. I think so much of the show works because of their menacing presence and their that booming voice. I'm just brilliant. I just so appreciated it, watching it again, revisiting it again, if I can, if I may.
I completely agree with the gravitas aspect, because it's like, I think as a 10-year-old first watching this when it aired, I didn't know who either of those guys were. It didn't matter to me. I was watching the superhero cartoon. That's what I cared about. But then growing up and like learning who everyone is doing the voices and what else they've done. And, that was Gimli. I had no idea, doing Hades. But then, as soon as he walks on screen, regardless, it's like he takes over the scene. And I wrote down that, like, I think this is, obviously every episode has such a high level threat to it of some kind. But for whatever reason, this episode has always felt like the first time that it was like, things are really bad. Like things could go really bad here. And like, he's not messing around. This is Hades. He could destroy the world or whatever he's intending to do. We're not out in the middle of space in some place I've never heard of before. Like, we're here. This is in my backyard essentially, or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the stakes did feel really high in this. And actually, I always feel like even though we're superheroes, there's always an aspect to us when I'm watching where I'm like, I feel like we're underdogs still. Like we're just, we don't always have our shit together. And I noticed, like, Michael Rosenbaum just kept, Michael. Flash kept opening stuff. And I just was like screaming at the television, like, stop opening things and creating like, massive explosions. And it was just like, not the sharpest tacks in the drawer is what I just kept thinking.
You guys are all pretty early at this. Like, you're not the Justice League quite yet. You're just kind of hanging out, and we have to stop the Lord of the Underworld now. I hope we can do it. Yeah,
right. And so you get that feeling like, I hope we can do it. Like, okay, let's put on a show, and like there's a barn next door. Let's try this. I mean, that's what it feels like in these early episodes, and there's never absolute confidence that they're going to get it done, other than the fact that they are going to get it done,
right?
Because that's how these shows work.
To your point about Michael too, that's why I love this series, because obviously Barry wasn't resurrected in the comic books yet, but that we've got Wally West Flash, because that is so a Wally West thing to do, and the fact that he's kind of like the rookie on the crew, even though he's got this incredible power. And I like those little bits in every episode. I turned on, because I do this. I turn on Justice League for my dog when I go to leave. And I had the episode on where it was the Justice League Unlimited, where it's the Flash Day. They're celebrating him, and the villains team up, and Orion and Batman have to help him. And you see, just from that episode, I thought, as I was watching this, because I stopped to watch it with my dog rather than leave the house like I was going to, I'm like, man, you really see the growth of the Flash from an episode like this, where he's picking up a wand and waving around, to, hey, I can handle this, guys. Thanks for the help. And I think that's great that every single one of the characters, and you included, Susan, we can point to that arc for every single one of you, how you each grew, how you each became more comfortable with the other. And I think that's brilliant storytelling on the part of all the writers and the directors for this series.
100%. And that's been talked about a little bit in some of the other episodes, that there was always that arc with all these characters. And I think there's a humanity to all of them, humanity in that there's a frailty, there's a vulnerability. So they're interesting characters. They're not just these, bigger than life. We've got this. That's why I think people fell in love with them, individually and as a group.
Yeah. James, I know when we said we wanted to have you on the show, we kind of said, is there an episode in particular? And you said Paradise Lost. What was the reason for this episode? Was this one of your favorite of the first series? Was there something about the episode that really kind of pulled you in?
It's full of Susan, so obviously that's a really good. It's directed by Dan Reed, but no. I mean, the Greek mythology stuff is a big part of it. There was also, I had a coloring book as a kid that was from before the Justice League cartoon came out, but it was featuring a bunch of the same characters in an animated style. It was kind of like, Batman the Animated Series is really popular. We better throw in Aquaman and Wonder Woman and all these characters into the coloring books, even though they've never been on the show before. And so Felix Faust was in one of those coloring books. And so that was another first time in the show where a character walked on screen that wasn't a superhero. I went, I know who that is. I felt validation or whatever. So that was a big part. The Greek mythology stuff also, and you guys have talked about this on your show here for a few times, and it just comes up a lot with how Justice League was for everybody, not just for kids, and invite your parents to come into the room and watch it with you and that kind of stuff. That was what I was probably annoyingly doing with my parents a lot, was okay, I really liked this episode. I think my mom would really like this episode. We should watch it together. I was videotaping every episode off TV and everything. And that's a concept where you put a tape into this machine called a VCR, which I say I was 10 when it aired, and it probably makes both of you feel old, but I'm at least old enough to explain what a VCR is. But yes, you're welcome. The Greek mythology stuff was my mom used to do piano tuning in town, and I'm probably going to get aspects of this story wrong. She's within earshot, but she, for whatever reason, brought me along one time to. She was tuning a piano at a church, and my stupid little kid brain thought, "Oh, church, they'll like the episode with gods in it." So I brought the tape with me as I'm going to be sitting around with these priests and stuff while she's tuning the piano. So I put on the episode. And, the one guy that helped me, turn on the TV or whatever was kind of half paying attention, half doing whatever he was doing. And then, but by the end of the episode, once we're all down in the, underworld area with the gate and everything, there were 4 or 5, church people standing around watching the episode with us. And my mom had been finished tuning the piano, so she was in there watching and all this stuff, where by the end, you just have this whole little gaggle of folks from all sorts of walks of life that are like, oh, Wonder Woman, yeah, I remember her from the like everyone's just talking about it and enjoying the episode. And that's always been a good memory of mine of this show is it's for everybody.
Hopefully they popped some popcorn, brought out the communion wine to share while you're having a little something to drink while you're watching.
I sure hope so. Here, little kid, have some of the blood. Yeah. No, I just really enjoyed this episode for a long time, so I'm happy to be here.
I couldn't get over how much ADR I had in it. You know, like all the grunts and there's so much action for this character.
Yes.
You know, I mean, and might I add that I totally kick Superman's ass.
Yes, I have that written down.
Totally. Oh my gosh. I mean, George didn't stand a chance. I was just... Go ahead.
No, I was wondering, I'm like, boy, supposedly, like, sometimes the power level are out of sync. You see this in comic books, but Wonder Woman's always should be on, just maybe a hair under Superman's strength level. But same with Martian Manhunter. He's supposed to be up there on Superman's level, and he didn't fare too well a couple times in this episode, but it's not. It's also not his episode. But do you dangle that over George's head a lot, Susan? Like, hey, Newburn, shut up, or I'm kicking your ass.
You know what? Now I will. I had to revisit this to remember that. And I had to see all this action. And God bless Andrea Romano, because she probably had to walk me through every one of those sounds. Grunts, punches, falling. I mean, how many times did I fall? And hello, got electrocuted.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Woof, woof. It was just, I mean... I think most actors, when they get a script, they're like, okay, how many lines do I have? It's like, and then they'll read the whole script. I would always dread when I had a ton of lines because it made me so incredibly nervous when I would have to, go into that room, which who was in that room. I mean,
sure.
Hi,
John Rhys Davies.
Right, exactly. And so this was such an intimidating episode to do. But, other than like some obvious wrong choices on my part, it was okay to revisit it. But
I don't know what you're talking about. So
yes, you do, because you mentioned it earlier.
No, this is lies. This is slander.
When you say wrong choices, obviously Bruce and Andrea and everyone greenlit everything. So is it just kind of like, I wish I'd done it differently? Because obviously they let it go through. They didn't have a problem with it. So which ones are you referring to specifically?
Just there were too many to mention. But just my tone wasn't quite right for the moment. And I wish, like I said to you, I maybe, a few episodes ago, I think I got so much better at imagining the reality that I was in. And I think that's something that I have now when I do a video game or an animated series. I do way more video games now than anything. And, creating that reality for myself, I think is something that I'm very comfortable with now. But at the time, I don't know that I was creating it enough. And so there were definite lines that if I had to do over again, I would love to do them over again. But just, not big ones, not like, oh God, I take that whole scene out, but just a line here and there, and it's
Diana
funny watching.
Practicing her lines in the Javelin was actually you just off camera practicing for the episode.
Actually, I remember that. I remember doing those lines so vividly. And actually that didn't make me cringe as much as some of the other things did. But it's funny because I look at the scenes with Batman now very differently because it's like looking back before Wonder Bat is like fully established. And I just have for so many reasons, primarily because Kevin's gone, but there's just something about those characters. And this is going to sound really weird, but even just the animation of those two characters, like, how when you watch something and you're like, wow, those two people really have chemistry on screen.
Right.
Even the animation, forget the voices. When I see am I sounding weird? But when I see Wonder Woman and Batman, I just think those two characters have an energy with each other that, is just very special.
I loved it
just
when
right from the get-go.
He
Yeah.
grappled Felix Faust with his grapple launcher, and
Yeah.
you throw the lasso around him too, and the both of you have a hold on him. I thought that was like,
Right.
"Aw, you guys."
Well, and
I know,
you both fall backwards at the exact same time, as if you're in sync already. You got you got something going on. Yeah.
I noticed that, you guys. I know that sounds a little strange, but
No,
go ahead, James.
I've always thought, like, knowing this about, having talked to you multiple times about this sort of thing where you've, got more comfortable in the role as it went on.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that went really well with her character too, because she's getting more and more comfortable, among man's world and all this stuff, and not having to, like, what you see as sounding maybe uncomfortable or awkward or something, I think really, like, goes really well with the character in the moment, and that later in Justice League Unlimited, when you're talking like a normal person, it's just like, oh, I'm just free to do whatever. Yeah. Oh, looking good, Diana. Yeah, I'm here. Whatever. I was trying to have a day off, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it works really well.
That's lovely. Thank you. And I always say that she and I kind of grew into the role together.
Yeah.
Because like you say, I mean, she was, and I got to say cool things in this episode. I got to say a lot of Hera. There was a lot of Hera.
Great. Gaia was a good one.
Right. Great Gaia. I loved. And also, I got to say I am Diana, Princess of the Amazons. And that was, I think that's on my demo reel, you guys.
I Won't Be Denied. Yeah.
That's on my demo reel still for my animation demo reel. So, that when I heard that, I was like, it just felt very nostalgic because I can remember this. Yeah. This session so vividly, being in that room.
I was going to ask you about those as you're driving in the Javelin, flying the Javelin, whatever it is. You're going there and you start going through the list of why you've been gone for 8 months. Yeah. I was wondering, were those done with everyone there watching you? Was that an ADR session for yourself? And were any of those like, come up with something on your own that you kind of like, or were they stripped? Every line was scripted.
Every line was scripted, and I was in the room with everybody, which was so nerve-wracking. Even now I'm like breaking out into a little bit of a sweat talking about it. With everybody. And you never improvised. You never improvised in those rooms.
None of them did. No one ever, like no other actors. I feel like Michael might have thrown something out maybe, or just given his personality.
I mean, I think he threw a lot out. I don't know that it got used.
I think 100 feet of cut.
Right. Exactly. God. And he just got the best lines. I mean, I always wished Wonder Woman would get one of his, the funny lines, because I was so serious.
Oh, yeah. No, I had written down from this that, like, the scene you show up at Themyscira and everyone's turned to stone. What's going on? And you've always talked about Andrea with, Susan, you need to find that, like, balance of the warrior and the princess or whatever. And I think that the warrior comes to the forefront a lot in this episode because, like, you're back home. This is your turf. Who the hell is this guy? He just showed up. And what did he do? You're so pissed off. I wrote down if you break your vow, no magic in the universe will save you from me. It was like, oh my God, like, trim those fingernails and get out of here, man.
Yeah. No, that felt comfortable. It was like, the lines that made me uncomfortable was like just little ones. Like sometimes the short lines, I've got you, sister, like that kind of stuff. As I got into the series more, those, or come in, Batman. Like that kind of stuff. We would all be like, okay, what is the next line? I need more lines.
Right, right.
But she was definitely tough. And I'm sure Andrea had to, say, okay, bring it up a notch. But yeah, no, she definitely had both of those. And
the
princess and all of that. And, it's a special episode. It just is. And the fact that it's special to you, James, our guest, makes me very happy.
Other James,
the other James, because that makes me so happy.
Yeah. Is there a particular line in this one as you're watching back, Susan, that kind of brought about a memory, like Andrea really had to help me with this, or that I was, I said this line and I got a look from Bruce, like you've said in other ones, you got a smile. Was there any particular moment during the recording session of this two-parter for you that stands out as, wow, this was special?
Well, the monologue I have, when they're doing the flashback, which I love the flashback device.
Yes.
I watch a lot of film noir, and there's always at the beginning, the beaten up guy talking. We actually just watched Double Indemnity last night, and I just love that where one character is telling what happened, and so in that speech, Batman starts in part 2, Batman starts who he was, and then I finish, and I think I got that in one take, and I remember just being, like I say, that stuff wasn't as hard as when I would have to say no, like
right, yeah,
no, it's like,
yeah.
that's, so I remember that. I remember being very nervous, but excited to say those lines. I think so much of this stuff is saying these words, having the opportunity to speak to a Faust, to talk to address a Hades, and to have that experience in life. It's very heady, right? And to have a mother called Hippolyta, and to be on an island called Themyscira. It's like it just all felt pinch me moments. They were just all so special, nerve-wracking, but so special. And I remember going through the, how do you pronounce this? How do you pronounce that? I mean, we all had a huge learning curve, and after a while, Themyscira just rolled off my tongue, as did Hippolyta. I even know how to spell them.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of Y's in there.
A lot of Y's, like hidden Y's. It's weird.
Yeah.
But, it was just, so I think the monologue and getting that in one take, and for the ADR, I think that was a separate session. That was once we had picture and you saw all the action that Wonder Woman's falling against the wall, then dropping, punching, getting punched, all of that. That was all done separately, probably alone or with one or two other actors. But again, you learn how to do that stuff, and you learn how to make it real for yourself in the moment. And I think it's not bad. I was actually impressed with the ADR.
I like it.
Yeah.
It is funny that there's a lot of stuff like your monologue where there's a lot of really memorable, great dialogue in this episode. But then there's also just a lot of action where I'm sure that half of the recording was just doing the ADR for all the oofs and all the and punching and all that kind of stuff. Because, you and Superman are going at it for 20 minutes or something.
I know. That was exhausting.
Who won that fight again, Susan? Who won that? It was Wonder Woman, right?
I kicked his ass. She kicked his ass. She did.
She walked over and said, just put some olive oil on it. You'll be okay.
Exactly.
Right.
This segment brought to you by... This segment brought to you by 10 Hands Olive Oil.
I know. As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh man, I got to scoop that up before it's gone.
Send me a bottle, dude. I'm not in California.
Right? I'll get you covered.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
I'm curious, James, because I know we've talked on the show before about me being a comic book kid growing up, and DC Comics was my first foray, and I loved the Superpowers team on Saturday mornings. Was Justice League, or maybe Batman, was that your first foray into DC animation, or where did you kind of start cutting your teeth on DC animation?
James, this is what we call the origin part of the interview, where we get people's origins.
The musical cue here. Let me get into it. I've got the sound effects. Where is it? Going back in time to 2001. No, I have the whole podcast soundboard sitting here. Justice League was definitely my first real. I'm taping every episode. If I miss an episode, I'm crying. All this kind of stuff where I was super into this. I definitely was a fan of Batman the Animated Series and all that before it, and Batman Beyond and everything. But this was the one I was really paying attention to and caring about the most. I didn't read a lot of comics. I had a couple, and I was just never really into it. I think that the kind of slimmed down graphical nature of the show, the stylized nature of it was a lot more interesting visually to me than nowadays. I have a lot more appreciation for a lot of that more detailed, grungy looking art that you see in a lot of comic books. But even still, some of my favorite artists are the ones that kind of stick more to an almost animated look, or at least more painterly, that kind of a thing. Mostly because of this show, because I was just so into it and so excited every time to know a new episode was coming and all of that. And
We should mention what shirt James is wearing.
oh yeah, I'm wearing a Justice League animated series shirt at the moment. I totally didn't put that on for this or anything like that. I mean, you can see my room behind me. It's nothing but, so yeah.
Luckily, you don't have a green screen behind you because the shirt would just be your floating head and the Justice League beneath you.
I made the mistake of buying this shirt and then I never can wear it in a video because it'll just be invisible. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
And you launched the podcast. I want to make sure we mention that too. Watchtower database, based on just your love of the DC animated universe. What was kind of the concept, the germ of the idea that started that for you?
Yeah, it's the main thing is the YouTube channel, and it's we've got over 500 videos on there now, all about this show and all of its connected brethren and sisters, and the majority of it is just doing videos about really deep dives into the continuity of the show, the timeline, the characters and their histories and everything. But yeah, we do have a couple of podcasts going on over time, and Susan was one of our earliest guests on our podcast and on our live streams and everything. She's been one of our biggest supporters over the years. So it's been all very, you were talking about pinch me stuff. That's always been there for us. It's like, what, Wonder Woman? No, that's not real. I didn't text her earlier today to get on the show here. No, that doesn't happen. Yeah.
You're going to make me blush. You know, you have to support the good guys and the good women. You have to support them. And you guys were always so sweet and kind. And I think you have, you do a great show.
We do our best. Thank you.
So are the guys going to be like, you didn't even mention our names on the podcast?
No. So I talked to Ted specifically this morning because I was like, oh, is there anything you want me to ask Susan and everything? And I also asked him about like, I could put in a good word for you if you want to get on the show. He's like, oh, I don't know, maybe. So whatever, if you want him on. He did want me to ask you about if you had any thoughts on the insinuations later that Hades might have had a hand in like sculpting Wonder Woman with Hippolyta, because that's not usually a thing in the comics or the movie or anything.
Yeah. I try to block that out. It's obviously, and there was such a creepy quality to all of it. Like I'll be coming over to you and I'm finished with your mother. Like, yuck. I mean, talk about cringe.
Yeah.
It was so yuck. I mean, it's obviously.
Well, he's a terrible person. He's the Lord of Hell here.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I covered Grimlock's ears when he said that. When Grimmy and I were watching this episode, I covered his ears.
I mean, that was just like yikes.
What's he doing with all those tongues? I don't want to know.
Awful. I mean, there was, this is one of those episodes that it wasn't for everybody. I mean, I can remember when I first got this job, and my family isn't into cartoons. Like, we weren't a cartoon family. I mean, except for maybe Scooby. And I can remember like sharing this episode with my like they would watch it, and you're always like, oh gosh, it's like, so there's such a darkness to this episode and just its themes and its action and all of that. But there's obviously a reference to him possibly being her dad, which I just can't.
Well, it's always made his line in this with the "you never told me you had a daughter," like being a little bit more. Oh, does he mean because he did? He didn't know that she ever brought her to life or that kind of thing, or was it? Obviously they weren't thinking about that at the time, and you probably don't have any insider knowledge about that. But I just figured you might have an opinion. Yeah,
but we will. Well, my opinion is ew.
Gross.
Gross. But we will be talking to. Are we talking to Dan?
We will be talking to Dan Reba in our next episode.
About this in our next episode.
So
about
stick around,
this.
listeners.
Yeah, so we'll get like the inside scoop about that. Like, that's one of the things I love about this podcast, because sure, I mean, I know what it was like to like say such and such a line, but hearing the backstory, that's just, that's fantastic.
And there are few people to get better backstory from than Dan, because my gosh, the man's like a walking Wikipedia.
That's another pinch me thing for me, is if was this a real thing on we're researching a video, and I'll just be like, hey Dan, can you tell me about that? What is life,
I know, but I think that's what's so important about the fans, and I think that's why your your show, your YouTube channel has been so successful, is because there are so many people that want to know all those details.
Yeah.
You know, they want to know if something what's the thing you're always talking about? If it's
canon.
Canon, right. Is this canon? Is that canon? Is this canon?
Right.
You know, and I just think that I think it's especially sweet for the writers and directors and the people behind the scenes to know that fan base is out there and just wants to hear every little detail about the making of these shows. Yeah. So, you know, I that's one of the, James and I talk about it all the time. We love having the writers, the directors, the, you know, composers, and the actors, of course. But it's just, it gives you the full picture of the show. It gives you the entirety of the experience. And I think that has been missing for quite a while.
Dan wasn't taping the episodes. He didn't need to. He already had them.
Right. Exactly.
He wasn't scurrying to the TV to make sure he turned it on in time.
No. And it's been fun. Actually, we had Rich on, and, you know, like for them, it's also nice to revisit these things. I mean, when we had Kevin Hops on, he hadn't seen the episode in so long, and so that was so fun for him. And
I really loved listening to his thoughts on that, because who else is going to get him on, you know, to talk about this stuff? Everyone gets Dan and Susan and all the big ones, you know, but you got to hear from the people that don't get asked as much. And he had a lot to say, and it was awesome.
He had so much to say. Yeah. What a career! And that's, if we do nothing else, being able to give that platform to people who we don't normally hear from, I think that's of such value. I mean, that's right.
Yeah. That's kind of what I always tell people if my friends ask, so what is this about? Like, you know how I used to get DVDs and they'd have the directors and actors and writers commentary? That's what we're doing for possibly one of the best animated series ever.
It's commentary. Yeah. It's commentary. It's great.
Yeah.
But
okay, so we're going to hit play on the episode now, and we're going to talk over it, right? That's right now.
And here's the scene where Susan saves the girl from the tree.
Yes. About that, though, I love how the mom just goes like, "Oh, I was so scared," and just walks inside. I'm like, don't say thank you or anything.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, rude. Hello.
You're just standing there, yeah.
Meanwhile, Batman's calling DFS on the woman. Just like, hello.
That's right. That's right. No, and I was really surprised the woman didn't thank me. And also, like, why was she up in a tree? Like, what was that about? Like, was there a kitty? That her kitty went up the tree and she went up to save the kitty?
She was just already climbing a tree for the last several hours. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we'll get her on the show.
Ask Dan why the little girl was in a tree.
What they didn't tell you, again, keeping with the dark theme of the episode, the cat had already gotten sucked away by the wind and was out in the ocean somewhere.
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, kids, this is the stuff you're not going to find anywhere else. All right.
It is funny whenever I'm listening to these episodes and you guys are talking. Like, a really good example was the last one that was released anyway, the Injustice for All with George. You guys are talking about, oh, why are we watching this? Isn't the next one Paradise Lost? I don't understand, that kind of thing. And you had a whole little, 2-minute deal about, well, the next produced episode was this, but the next aired episode was this. And then, Susan, you always have your comment about like, oh, where else are you going to get this? I'm like, me, you're going to get it from me. Well, I'm listening because I know that. I'm sitting there saying it along with you. I know.
to make sure that we don't forget at the end, because sometimes we'll do that and I get to the end and I think it was Stan Berkowitz, we let him go and was like, oh, I didn't ask him about. So before we do wrap everything up, James, make sure we tell people, give out the website and the YouTube channel and the social media handle so we make sure we get that in.
Sure, yeah. It's Watchtower Database, spelled like how it sounds, youtube.com/Watchtower Database. We also have a podcast, Jump on the Batwagon, where I'm taking my friend Brian through the entire DC Animated Universe start to finish, and he's never seen any of it before. He's barely familiar with Batman characters, and that was about it. So he's having a really great time learning everything. And that's why that came up in my head when you're just describing the air date order and stuff, is because we're watching everything as it aired. So he's going to have to wait to watch that episode for several episodes. And some stuff won't make sense, and it'll be like, what's going on? But that's the beauty of it, is you have to live through it like I lived through it. This is what we had to deal with.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was very confusing.
That's
right? We were like, I was confused. I was like, James, wait, that's not the next episode. And
right. Yeah, I literally thought Susan was going to totally just say, this show's over, I'm done working with you, and just kick me off.
Yeah, exactly.
Episode thing.
She's that kind of person, yeah.
Hey, she kicked George Newburn's ass. I'll just leave it at that, okay?
Right. But James, you did that deep dive, and it was great. And then we had that long, like, little blurb about it on, like, that he's talking about. That's why you do a thing like this with somebody as geeky as James, because otherwise,
and James,
because otherwise, can you imagine if I were just doing the podcast alone? It would be like 15 minutes, and then we'd be out. So you have to have somebody who like knows that universe intimately, and I'd say you two know it as intimately as possible.
Unfortunately and fortunately.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing.
No, I kind of envy your friend though, James, because I would love to have just Eternal Sunshine, all of it out of my mind and go back and watch it again with fresh eyes. But I often wonder with all the stuff there is out there now, because I think I watched it at the right time as it was coming out. Like I was watching On Leather Wings when it premiered that evening on Fox, before it ever started on Saturday mornings, and to see it now in the context of 2020, I don't know that I would have appreciated as much, because
it's funny that you bring up that exact episode, because that's one. It's on my top 10. I think it's number 2 or 3 on my top 10 for BTAS. And Brian, there's just a running gag where Brian does not understand how I possibly like that episode. And it's very strange. We have an interesting dichotomy there with love and hate. Yeah.
Where are you in the continuum? Where are you?
We just got to the first new Batman Adventures episode, which is several Superman episodes deep. But since we're watching them as they aired, then now they start kind of back and forth between 2 different shows. We won't get to Justice League for a couple years, but I'm really excited for all this stuff, especially, stuff like Star-Crossed or just the series finale, and all this stuff is like, now that we're finally getting into Superman and we're being introduced to characters like Darkseid and things like that, I'm sitting there just like giddily wiggling, like, oh, Brian, we're getting into it. Like, this is the real stuff. Like,
it's exciting. Well, can I ask you too a question? Because this is something that's come up, and I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah.
When you fall in love with these characters, how attached do you get to the voices? So in other words, there are all these wonderful animated movies, mostly movies that have different casting. If the story is brilliant and it's, you're just like, and it's directed brilliantly, do you miss the voice actors, or is it something that is just like, oh no, but the story was so good, so I fell in love with it? How much do you get attached to that original voice that you heard the character?
I think it depends for me, because of course, very sadly, we're never going to get a new Batman movie with Kevin and that kind of thing. And so I'm going, at that point, I have to kind of just obviously accept the fact that, like, okay, Batman's going to be some other person, whatever. Not my preference or whatever. But I think that's probably what it is for me, as a preference, but not a deal breaker or anything. If it is a really good, there's a lot of really good the direct-to-video animated movies that don't have the DCAU voice cast. They're just also really good movies. And like a couple of them I have on our list for showing my buddy Brian to, like, I know these aren't technically DCAU, but you have to see this one also, kind of a thing. But I know, there was that 2009 Wonder Woman animated movie, and that was so close to this show ending that it was like, where's Susan? Why isn't this Susan? That was a weird thing. But now I can go back and watch it and be like, okay, I've come to accept that not everything is going to be Susan. It's okay. And I can enjoy the movie.
And that was Kerry Russell, I believe. And
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, that was, I think Gale. Wasn't that a Gale story?
I believe it was.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right,
okay.
For my money.
So they're all very good, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to. There are certain stories, yes, that I loved. Like, for example, Adam West came back to do the voice of Batman for Challenge of the Super Friends. And one of the best episodes was the one with the Scarecrow, where we get an origin story for Batman.
Right.
Hadn't been done until then. We see like
the Alan Burnett episode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, and Alan had such a great. He killed Superman before it was cool, sending Superman's body to the sun to rescue him. But Alan Burnett, my goodness.
Before Wonder Woman did it in Paradise Lost.
Right. Oh my gosh! But that's Adam West for a while. That voice from the animation, not his more campy version in the 66 series, was the voice I'd hear. But then I heard Kevin, and it was a paradigm shift. So there are certain actors who I think resonate more. And my perfect example I always give is Spider-Man. I grew up when I was a kid on Saturday morning watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So Dan Gilvezan's voice is still the voice I hear in my head for Spider-Man. But Josh Keaton, when he comes in and does the role for his series, I'm like, oh, you know what? That's the one. I've never had a problem with any other voice actor doing a role, but there are certain ones who, to me, what I envision the character to be are a better fit. Bruce Greenwood in Young Justice, fantastic voice for Batman, and he had a lot of cool moments, but it's not Kevin. Nothing disrespect to Bruce, but Kevin will always be that voice. Susan, you'll always be the voice of Wonder Woman, and I'm not sure what these people are thinking at Warner Brothers casting other people in the role, and where's our Wonder Woman animated series? Just saying.
Well, see, this is where I get into weird, like, not arguments, but just kind of conversations with other fans of I can't believe they didn't cast this exact one person as the character every single time. Is like, give other people a chance. There are other good actors out there. You don't have to have that one person every single time. But I do feel like sometimes the project is just slightly worse because it wasn't George as Superman, or it wasn't Tim as Superman, or something like that. We're like, oh, this is a really good Superman movie, but why isn't it my Superman? I understand that, but I also make room for the others because there've been a lot of really good stuff that wasn't with those guys. So yeah.
Right. That's interesting. No, and I agree, because there are so many talented people out there. I think James and I have talked a long time about it. Just always broke my heart that we were never reunited after the show ended. That there was a movie here or a movie there where there were maybe
some of
us.
you,
right?
Yeah.
Justice League versus the Fatal Five and Doom. There were a few of us, but I always felt that was such a huge missed opportunity because of the affection the fans had for the chemistry of the show. And obviously, hashtag JO reunion and all of that. So it never made sense to me that they did that. Never. And it never will. And now, it can't fully happen because Kevin's gone. So I appreciate what you're saying, because of course, there's no ownership of these characters. But when you have an audience that loves a group of actors as much as our audience does, it has broken my heart for years that they just never thought, well, let's put these 7 back together and have them have another adventure together. And we'll do a movie. It'll be a one-off. It just seemed like such a easy and smart and wonderful thing to do that wasn't done. So anyway, I totally appreciate what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
I do.
I think I've always, I hesitate to say it because I know that the writers and directors will always be like, well, if you throw an idea out there into the ether, it means we can't use it. But my Justice League reunion idea has always been to set it in like right now time, like however long it's been in between the end of Justice League Unlimited and now whenever the movie would come out, have that amount of time have actually passed in their world as well, and have it be a literal reunion of the characters. And that way, technically, Batman's already retired. He can be holed up in Wayne Manor. You can be trying to call him. He doesn't answer. And maybe he can have a little wordless cameo or something to get the waterworks going, But I still feel like you can bring the rest of you together, and that, you guys had your get together after Kevin's passing to watch some of the shows, and that looked like a great time that I wish I could be a fly on the wall for. And I think that you guys always enjoy your time together regardless. So, yeah.
Yeah, we do. And I think that's actually a brilliant idea that you have. So
that now can't be done. But.
Yeah.
Delete it from the podcast.
Well, I'll make a note of the timestamp. We'll edit that out. No problem. As we're wrapping up, because this time has flown by, or I just looked at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I want to make sure that we kind of come back and revisit this episode with we'll go around. We'll start with our guest, James, then go to Susan. Three particular standout moments from this episode that really kind of got you.
Hades showing up, as I mentioned, the just change of dynamic in the room. Suddenly the Justice League are ants. There's nothing that can stop this guy. That's a great introduction to the character. But you know where I've been, as he takes his helmet off and all that stuff. Always been one of my favorite scenes, and just them fighting him, all that stuff. The introduction of Faust is also really good, and that as soon as you leave the island to go look for the pieces, he sends you on your fetch quest, and he's standing there, and he's now he can talk to Hades in private, and you can kind of see that he's not as confident as he might have seemed when you were there. He's got Satan in a hole that he's talking to, and he's like,
right.
"Oh no, I'll
calling.
definitely."
And he's not calling the shots, like
no,
you think
exactly.
in the first, yeah. So that was interesting. Yeah.
I think the last big one for me is the last final shot of the episode. The sunset as the javelin's flying away, and my little sun and stars. That's always a tearjerker. It always, because the episode ends on such a dour, like it's heartbreaking. there's no other way to say it. Yeah. Yeah. But it's always stuck with me. And then the musical cues, I think that's the first time. I might be wrong about this, and I should know this, but I think this episode is the first time you hear the Wonder Woman motif in the music, and it's especially apparent in the piano version that's playing as you're loading onto the javelin at the end. That's where it gets me every time. And Jean puts his hand on your shoulder, and then the piano starts like, "Oh my god, I can't do this." So, yeah, you wrote it down too. Yeah.
Wow, you guys.
Susan?
Wow.
I stole one of James's.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ending is just a heartbreaker, and I love that the script comes full circle with the with the beginning with the mother and the daughter. My second favorite would be like the kid up the tree. I think that was just so emotional. No, I'm kidding.
Interesting.
I was like, what a strange moment to choose. The stop sign flying through the fire truck really got me.
I actually love when they're all in the apartment, Faust, and they're looking through, and they're all like trying to put the pieces together. And any scene where there's like more than 3 of us in a room, I'm just like all for it.
That little comedy beat of them all putting the items back on the shelf is great too. Like, don't touch anything. Oh, we weren't. So what are you talking about?
And then Flash, of course, does.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Michael is so freaking funny in this episode. I mean, I laughed out loud at his delivery. Just so funny.
Mm-hmm. Anybody got some weed killer or what?
Right. I mean, so good. So good. And I guess just overall the mother-daughter stuff, I just, it just resonates with me, and being able to play that aspect of her as a daughter. And so anything with Susan, with Susan Sullivan, I just really, really loved. And I like when the team, like, she's like, I can do this myself, and no one's listening to that. They're all going to show up anyway. I found it interesting that Hawkgirl wasn't in this, because as a woman, she would have been okay to be on the island.
Yeah.
And, like, it would have been interesting as a sisterhood to have her there. And I think it's interesting that she wasn't.
We do get that moment, though. There's that payoff for that in Justice League Unlimited, though, where so I kind of like that moment when Hawkgirl team, and she's kind of at that point not a teammate. She's kind of coming back into the fold as a bit of an outsider.
Right.
So I think the dynamic worked. I will have to ask Dan Reba if that was one of the things they're like, well, let's not.
Where's Hawkgirl?
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see Dan's take on that.
Well, but it's funny because there are episodes I wasn't in, and we would ask Dan, like, so, or we'd ask anybody, where am I? And they're like, and I thought there was a reason it was going to be intense. Like, okay, hold on, why wasn't Wonder Woman there? And it's like, oh yeah, no, we just didn't write for her that week.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, okay.
As a 10-year-old watching it, the first couple of episodes where they do kind of do that, where they'll have like, they're all loading on the javelin. Oh, well, Wonder Woman's doing this and Batman's off doing this thing. And it was always like, oh, okay, I understand. But then as it went on, I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's in Gotham. He's punching the Joker on some street. It doesn't matter. It's okay.
That's funny.
We should have gotten like a little Great British Baking Show when they send Prue and Paul out of the tent, and Noel's like, they're going to go off and give each other a sponge bath. Let's get a little reason as to why no one's there,
Just cutaways to Batman going like, what am I doing?
God, he's
Just a
humorless, though, right? He's just humorless, Batman.
Don't get me started.
Jeez, what a heavy dude. Lighten up.
That
Lighten up, bro.
I think an honorable mention for a moment for me is him. Oh, Professor Ehrlich. Oh, make an appointment with my so and so, and then he just lands on the ground behind him and stands up super slow. It's one of the coolest Batman shots in the whole show.
It is. It's great.
You see the shadow and the lightning, the shadow of the Batman on the door. Oh, that was
so
He
good.
just scares the hell out of that 90-year-old man for no reason.
So again, that was one of the darker things that was cut. He actually dangled him off the building by an ankle. And so
Yeah,
the guy's
really.
dentures fell out. It was awful.
God.
Good one, James.
Thank you.
So
I
what about
tried
you?
to make an appointment with your secretary, actually. She was never answering my calls.
You'll find her wrapped up in my Batarang underneath.
Yeah.
The secretary's trussed up. Batman was just brutal in this episode. But
So
all
what
off
about
screen.
you? What are your standout?
well,
for this episode?
James has taken two of mine now with the Batman and with the musical cue.
What
but-
other honorable mentions can I say? Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
But no, I had that written down. I had the piano melody of the Justice League with that little Wonder Woman kind of thrown in there as you're doing that thing, and John's hand on your shoulder, because it was a callback for me of when you're so rejoiced to see John on the Great Wall of China in the big finale of the series.
Yeah.
That kind of, you can see the bonds forming between you and John in this, and it just I mean that
I know,
that whole
and
moment.
I have to say, I love that moment. I love it because I just love the character of Jean, and I love the actor Carl Lumley.
Oh, of
so
course.
it just, it was
Yeah.
just,
and then obviously
we were fortunate to talk to Carl a few months ago for the first time, and I was, he's obviously had been on the list for a while, but never knew how to contact him and everything, and that was another just really joyful experience. Like he's such a nice dude. Like he's the warmest man we've ever spoken to. Yeah,
no,
it was
you're
great.
not going to find a sweeter man.
Yeah.
No, for sure. For sure.
I'll make this very quick. I had him on my show a couple of years ago, and I've set it up, and I was ready, waiting for him to call in. Nothing. So I quickly emailed his manager and said, haven't heard from Carl yet. She goes, oh, that's odd. And about 5 minutes later, I get a call coming in from a California area code, and he goes, I am so sorry. I'm embarrassed. Please forgive me. I was driving. I pulled my car over as soon as my agent messaged me. I'm like, oh my God, no, go somewhere safe. Don't do it from the side of the road. But I'm
currently still driving, actually.
Yeah.
But
That's
just
funny.
super nice. I mean, just fell all over himself. I'm like, please don't apologize. But yeah, that's just the kind of guy that Carl is, and that really comes through in his performance as Jean. And I like those episodes the more he warms up to the cast members. But
Yes.
this has been fantastic. I can't imagine a better person than James Strecker to launch our first Superfan episode off. Is there anything, lastly, before you take off, you want to tell people something you've got coming up on your show?
Yeah, I have about 30 other things I wrote down that I didn't get to say, but no, that's okay. No, we have plenty of stuff always coming up. We just put out a new video on whether or not Santa Claus is real in the DC animated universe.
I saw that.
That was a very fun one. And we've got all sorts of really good stuff coming up next year that we've been talking about. I don't want to spoil what any of it is yet, but I'm sure that we will ask you to be a part of a couple of them, Susan. So stay tuned for the.
Okay, well, you know my answer. You know my answer to all of your questions is always yes. So you can just assume I'll say yes to these.
Okay, good. No, I'm really happy to have been asked. I think it was even, I saw the announcement for the podcast, and I think you might have come to me being like, oh, and we hope that you'll be on one of them, just very casually. Like, yes. So why would I not be on this? Of course. Yeah, I'm very flattered to have been asked. So thank you. I do my best to keep the DCAU and especially we talk about Justice League and Justice League Unlimited almost more than any other show, just because of how near and dear to me and Ted and everybody else they are. And so, yeah, it means a lot to be a part of this. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh gosh, our pleasure. And also, please tell everyone I say hello.
I will. Yes.
To the group.
And Ted listens to these, so he's saying you're saying hi to him right now.
Hi, Ted. Ted knows I adore him. I've worked with Ted.
Yes,
I adore him.
yes.
So hi, Ted. And thank you, and keep up your good work. And and I'll probably see you next in one of your projects.
Yeah. Yeah, we do our best to keep the DCAU in the zeitgeist as much as we can.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, James. We appreciate your time today.
Bye, I guess. I don't want to leave.
Bye, James. Thank you.
See you guys later. Thank you.
Bye.
There he goes, James Strecker. As I said to him while he was here, I can't think of a better super fan because the stuff that they do over there at Watchtower Database for the DC animated universe and Justice League in particular, that was the perfect fit to have him on.
It really was. And I've been like friends with that group of guys for a while now and have done a bunch of stuff with them. And when I said, well, why don't you come on the show? I think he was a little shocked. And, but he was very happy to do it. And I think it's a good idea, right? The fan thing, I think that's going to work.
I think so. I think it'll catch on. And I feel, oddly enough, and you can correct me if you felt differently, I feel like we focused more on the actual episode than we have when we've had directors or writers, because we focus so much on this, rather than sometimes we go off on a tangent because we've got, this particular writer and you did this, didn't you? You did TJ Hooker. Let James talk about 80s now. But,
right.
This one was like, I think we stayed on topic very well.
Well, we did, and I'm proud of us. And we discussed his origin story for Watchtower Database, but we didn't discuss like what he does for a living and all of that. And how did you get to be where you are? And that always takes a while, but I always find it interesting to hear a little bit more about the person. So when we have him on again, we have a lot of episodes to cover.
Yes. Yes, so many. I was thinking about that today because this is only the 5th story of the Justice
I like how you're
League
holding
run.
up your hand. I like how you're holding up your hand. Like
for those of you in Idaho, it's my right hand. If you look right now, yes, no one knows. I'm for you and me though. That's the whole thing. That's all right.
Okay, well, so this is our 5th. This is our 5th.
This isn't our 5th episode, but this is the 5th story in the Justice League continuity. So that we covered Secret Origins was first, then In Blackest Night, and then there was something I'm blanking. The Aquaman episode.
Yes.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yes.
And then Injustice for
Finding
All.
Nemo.
Yes, exactly. Finding
Nemo.
Dory. Well, that was the second one we covered. And then Injustice for All, and now we're covering Paradise Lost. So yeah, the 5th story.
Wow.
That we're on, and we've got a long way to go because we're not even out of the first season yet. This is great.
I know, but it's like the high point. I love this. I love our show. I love our listeners. I love that there's some positive feedback from people, and it makes me so giddy when I wake up and I know we're going to be recording that day. It makes me so happy.
Me too.
I can't speak for you. Oh, really? Okay, good.
Yes. I'm tickled. You can't see me, but I'm tickled pink, actually. But this is it's so much fun, especially when we have it was a different dynamic with James Strecker because he's another fan. And not that the writers we've had on aren't fans. Dan Reba is obviously a fan. Not that they aren't fans. Phil, obviously huge fan. But
huge.
But when the fan like James and myself come to it from a different perspective because we're wide-eyed and we're sitting here, tell us about this. Tell us about this. And I think we kind of, much like Snapper Carr did in the Justice League, comic book, he was the stand-in for the reader, the average person who is kind of in the group, much like the companions are for the Doctor in Doctor Who. That's, I think, the role that James and I have. We're kind of here to facilitate the knowledge and kind of be that surrogate for the fans.
That's kind of like the chorus in Greek mythology, right?
Yes, to tie it all back in, yes.
Right. Hello. That's what I'm trying to do. It was great. I have to say, though, if it had just been you and James, the podcast would have been about 3.5 hours because no, seriously, you guys, two peas in a pod. That's what you could call the podcast, by the way. And the two of you, you're on the same page with so many things. And James said I had so many more things to talk about. And then we were like, yeah, but we don't have the time. We had to cut him loose, right?
But it's one of those things that you could do a long form. Like if someone always asks, what could you talk about for, 5 hours straight with no interruptions? Usually my thing is, comic books, anything to do with, Justice League animated series or Batman animated series. I could easily give a 5-hour TED talk with no prep.
And it's sweet when I see that side to you come out, like when you like all your geeky knowledge comes out in the episode, in the conversation, because I just sit back and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is where he shines. And I can just like, sit back and take a little break because wow, you really are geeky in the best possible way.
And I saw you taking that break. Was that a mimosa you had that you were sipping? It looked orange, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah. You think I can get through these?
It's 5 o'clock
a little
somewhere.
something, right? Yeah, not here. Not here. Well, okay, another one in the books, so that's good.
Yeah, we've just, even though, like I just said, we're only on our 5th story, I still feel like we're blowing through this at such a rapid pace because here we're coming up on the new year now, and we've got so many great stories to go. But before we head out, as always, let people know where they can find you on all of your, this might be someone's first episode. Maybe they don't know.
Oh, that's right. So SusanEisenbergVoice.com is my website, and Susan Eisenberg 1 is where I am on pretty much every social media platform. I've used the same name so it wouldn't be confusing. And also my icon is, I think, the icon for our podcast. So again, if anyone's looking for me, just look for, Justice League Revisited, the little icon, and Susan Eisenberg 1, and you can find me. I think I'm all over. All the major ones, right?
Blue skies smiling at me.
Look at you.
I'm no George Newbern, but
who is?
Right.
Who is? But I can kick his ass.
That's true. Probably mine too, if we're being honest. You could probably floss with my arms, seriously. And then, of course, the show, if you're listening, hopefully you may have stumbled upon this randomly, and hopefully if you did, you enjoyed it. We've got a few more shows you can go back and listen to, and we do drop these every 2 weeks. So if it's a Tuesday now, and this is a brand new episode, you have 2 weeks to go until the next one comes out. So just go back and listen to our back catalog. You can follow us on Twitter. The actual account for the show is at OG Justice League. We always put out announcements there, and we try to, if we know the guests far enough in advance, we put out a thing where you, the listener, can ask questions, and we have done that in the past. We've asked guests questions that have been submitted by you, the listener. So please make sure you follow us there. We're coming up on 500 followers on Twitter. Not bad for an account that, just started recently. And we do ask, speaking of getting on the bandwagon, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. If you're listening to this on Apple, Google Play, Spotify, whatever podcast it is, if you would listen. And Susan wanted to make sure we tell you to write a 5-star review. Otherwise, she will treat you like George Newbern and kick your ass. So
No, it's so important that we get subscribers and that we get some reviews and just give us feedback in general. We would love to hear from you, and let us know, what your thoughts are on the show. So please subscribe. This is us saying, please subscribe
for just $10 a month. You too,
right?
Not to go all Sally Struthers on you, but
not yet. All right. So another one in the can. Did you told everybody where they can find you?
No, it's at Geek to Me Radio on just about every platform. GeekToMeRadio. On Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/Geek to Me Radio. We do a live show every Sunday night on a terrestrial radio station based in St. Louis, but you can stream us online as well. If my brilliant executive producer, Joey V, is in the studio with me, we will run videos. So if you could, please go to YouTube and find Geek to Me Radio there. Hit the subscribe button. I'd love to get that 1K subscribers in before the end of the year, and we're closing in on that mark. So hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell notification. You'll get a notification every time we go live on a Sunday with a brand new show. And I've got a lot of stuff going into the new year that I'm excited to talk about, so stick with me there and let me know what you think.
And we have some good episodes coming up. We're not going to... Yeah, so just stay tuned, everybody, because the conversation continues.